Johnny Cash walked into San Quentin Prison on the 24th of February 1969 with a song that could have ended his career. Prison officials sat in the front row, guards lined the walls, and 1,000 inmates were about to hear something they'd been waiting their whole lives to hear. Someone telling the truth about their hell. San Quentin State Prison, California. 1969. 1 year after Cash's legendary Folsom Prison concert album became a massive hit, he was invited back to perform at another maximum security prison. But this time was different. Folsom had been revolutionary Cash, singing to forgotten men, giving them dignity, making them visible. The album went gold. It revived his career. It made him a legend. San Quentin was supposed to be the sequel, a safe repeat performance. Network television was there, cameras rolling, documentary crew filming. Prison administrators sat in the front row, expecting a respectful, controlled performance. They had no idea what Cash had written. According to Granada TV's documentary footage from that day, Cash had composed a new song specifically for San Quentin. He titled it, simply, San Quentin, and it was a declaration of war. Here's what most people don't understand. Cash didn't write a song about San Quentin. He wrote a song that cursed San Quentin. The lyrics were brutal. San Quentin, you've been living hell to me. San Quentin, I hate every inch of you. San Quentin, may you rot and burn in hell. This wasn't metaphor. This wasn't poetry. This was rage. And Cash was about to sing it to 1,000 men who'd been brutalized by the prison system, while prison officials sat 15 feet away. San Quentin in 1969 was notorious, overcrowded, violent. Guards were known for brutality. Inmates lived in constant fear. Solitary confinement was used liberally. Men disappeared into the hole for months. These weren't rumors. These were documented facts that would later lead to multiple federal investigations. And Cash knew all of it. Before he started, Cash looked out at the inmates. Then he looked at the guards. Then he looked at the warden sitting in the front row. According to band members' later interviews, Cash whispered to his guitarist, "This is either going to be amazing, or we're never getting out of here." Then he started playing. The moment Cash sang the first line, "San Quentin, you've been living hell to me," the room exploded. Inmates erupted, screaming, cheering, standing. Some were crying. These were men who'd spent years, decades being told they were nothing, being beaten, being dehumanized, being forgotten. And here was Johnny Cash, on live television with prison officials watching, saying what they'd never been allowed to say. This place is hell, and it shouldn't exist. Granada TV footage shows the inmates' faces. Pure catharsis, pure validation. Finally, someone was telling their truth. But watch the guards' faces in that same footage. They're tense, hands on batons, eyes scanning the crowd. And the prison officials in the front row? They're frozen. They can't stop the performance. It's being filmed for national television. But they also can't let this continue. The energy in the room was electrical, dangerous. Cash later said, "I could feel it. One wrong word, one wrong note, and that place would have exploded." Cash sang the entire song. The inmates went wild. Then Cash did something nobody expected. He announced he was going to play it again. Cash looked out at the crowd of inmates and said, "According to the documentary audio, I'd like to do that song again. Want to hear it again?" The inmates roared, but then Cash paused. He looked at the guards. He looked at the warden. And according to his later interviews, including his appearance on The Johnny Cash Show, he had a moment of clarity. "I realized if I play this song again, These men might riot. And if they riot, people could die. And it would be my fault. The tension in that room was suffocating. Guards moved closer to the stage, hands on weapons. The warden stood up, visibly alarmed. Inmates were chanting, "Again! Again! Again!" Cash's band members later said they were terrified. Guitarist Carl Perkins said, "I thought we were about to witness a massacre." The drummer was sweating. The bass player had his eyes on the exit. They all knew what could happen. San Quentin had seen riots before. In 1968, just 1 year earlier, a violent uprising had left 3 inmates dead and dozens injured. Guards had used tear gas and batons. It had taken hours to regain control. Everyone in that room remembered. Cash had a choice. Stop now and keep everyone safe. Or play the song again and give these men what they desperately needed to be heard. Cash looked at the warden. Then he looked back at the inmates, and he made his decision. He turned to his band and said, "Let's do it again." And he played San Quentin a second time. The room exploded even louder. Inmates were on their feet, shouting every word with him. Some were pounding on tables. Others had their fists raised. But something shifted. According to the documentary footage, you can see Cash watching the crowd carefully. He wasn't performing anymore. He was managing a powder keg. His eyes never left the inmates. He was reading the room, measuring the temperature, watching for the tipping point. Between verses, he spoke directly to them. "I know it's rough in here. I know you've been treated like animals. But don't give them a reason to hurt you. Don't give them an excuse." He was threading an impossible needle, validating their rage while trying to prevent a bloodbath. The guards were poised to intervene. One wrong move, one thrown chair, one rushed stage, and they would have shut it down violently. But Cash kept control. Barely. He finished the song. The inmates roared. The guards stood down. And Cash immediately pivoted to a gospel song. Peace in the Valley, calming the energy, bringing the room back from the edge. It was a masterclass in control, in understanding power, in knowing exactly how far he could push. After the performance, prison officials were furious. According to producer Bob Johnston's account, the warden confronted Cash backstage. "You almost caused a riot. You could have gotten people killed. Do you understand what you did?" Cash's response, as Johnston recalled, "I understand exactly what I did. Maybe you should ask yourself why those men are so angry." The warden threatened to confiscate the footage. He demanded edits. He wanted the second performance of San Quentin removed. Cash refused. He told the producers, "If they cut that song, pull the whole special." The television special aired, unedited. The album was released. It became another massive hit, even bigger than Folsom. But here's what most people don't know. San Quentin officials banned Cash from ever performing there again. He was too dangerous, too honest, too willing to tell the truth. Cash later said in interviews, "They didn't ban me because I was a bad influence on the inmates. They banned me because I was telling the truth about the guards." Let's be clear about what Cash put on the line that day. His safety if the inmates rioted. He could have been killed in the chaos. His career network television was filming. One wrong move and he'd be blamed for a prison riot on national TV. His freedom inciting a riot is a crime. He could have been arrested and prosecuted. His relationship with law enforcement, he'd already been arrested 7 times. This could have made him a permanent target. His comeback, the Folsom album, had just revived his career. This could have destroyed it permanently. His band's safety, he put his musicians in danger without asking them first. He knew all of this. He saw the guards' hands on their weapons. He saw the warden's face. He felt the room about to explode. And he played the song twice anyway. Here's why this moment is more than just a performance. In 1969, nobody talked about prison reform. Inmates weren't considered people with rights. They were criminals who deserved whatever happened to them behind those walls. The media didn't cover prison conditions. Politicians didn't campaign on reform. Society had decided these men were disposable. Cash stood in front of those men, many of whom had been beaten, isolated, dehumanized for years, and said, "You matter. Your pain matters. This system is wrong." He didn't just sing to them. He weaponized his platform for them. He used his fame, his television special, his record deal, all of it, to force America to see what it had been ignoring. And he did it knowing it could cost him everything. So here's what this story is actually about. Was Cash right to risk a riot? Prison officials said no. They said he was reckless, dangerous, irresponsible. They said he put lives at risk for a publicity stunt. But the inmates? According to later interviews with men who were there that day, multiple former San Quentin prisoners said the same thing. That was the first time anyone treated us like human beings. One former inmate, interviewed in the documentary Johnny Cash at San Quentin, said, "Cash could have gotten himself killed that day. He could have walked away, but he didn't. He stood there and said what we couldn't say. And for 5 minutes, we felt like people again." Another said, "I was so angry that day. We all were. But Cash didn't tell us to riot. He told us we mattered. There's a difference." That's the cost Cash was willing to pay. His safety, his career, his freedom to give voiceless men a voice. The San Quentin album became one of the best-selling live albums in history. It cemented Cash's reputation as the voice of the forgotten. It launched a national conversation about prison conditions and reform, and it proved something Cash had believed his entire career. The people society throws away are still people. But here's what really mattered to Cash. Years later, he received thousands of letters from former inmates, men who'd been at San Quentin that day, men who'd heard the album in other prisons across America. They all said the same thing. "You made me feel human again." That's what Cash was fighting for. Not fame, not record sales, dignity. This isn't a story about a concert. It's a story about courage. Johnny Cash walked into San Quentin prison knowing he could start a riot. He played a song that cursed the prison system while prison officials sat in the front row. He saw the danger. He felt the tension. He knew the cost. He played it twice anyway, even after seeing how close the inmates were to exploding. And he did it because he believed those men deserved to be heard. The warden was right. Cash could have caused a riot that day. But Cash was also right. Someone needed to tell the truth. Those men had been brutalized, forgotten, erased. And Cash decided that their dignity was worth more than his safety. That's not recklessness. That's moral courage. Johnny Cash risked everything at San Quentin. He could have been killed. He could have been arrested. He could have destroyed his career. But he looked at 1,000 forgotten men and made a choice. Their dignity was worth more than his safety. And when he walked out of San Quentin that day, banned for life, but vindicated, he'd proven something that still resonates today. Standing with the powerless against the powerful is always dangerous, but it's also always right. The question isn't whether Cash should have played that song twice. The question is, would you have had the guts to play it once?